Today's podcast is brought to you by Red Bull and Marlboro Lights.
Broadcasting from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City, this is On the Air with Deplorable Pride. Tune in at ontheairwithdeplorablepride.org every Wednesday, a conservative LGBT talk show. We are your voice. Here's your host, Brian Talbert and Chris O'Shea.
Coming at you live from just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm Chris O'Shea, your co-host with Brian Talbert. Brian, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. I'm getting excited for this weekend. We're coming up on the 2018 Charlotte Gay Pride Parade, and that's really where this all began. Why don't you walk us through, because I know that this is our first podcast, so we're going to pick up a lot of new listeners, and some of our followers may not know the backstory. So why don't you tell us how Deplorable Pride started and why we're talking today in the first place?
Okay, in 2017, we filled out an application to join the Charlotte Pride Parade. We had a Republican president for the first time in history on day one, came into office supporting of gay marriage. So we felt we wanted to honor him for that. So we wanted a float to represent the conservative party that is inside the LGBT community. Charlotte Pride denied us, said that because of our support for the president that we were anti-LGBT, and we did not espoused things that were against their mission and statement as an organization. So we got labeled anti-LGBT until we can't be a part of it anymore. And I said the history with me is that in 1994, when the very first Pride celebration actually took place in Charlotte, it was held at Marshall Park. Because even then, the city of Charlotte would not even grant a permit for a festival such as that. So we had the rented Marshall Park, and we were allowed to march around the outside of the perimeter of the park. It was just one square block. And back then in 94, the streets were lined with protesters. We had like Joe Chambers and the Christian Coalition had about 250 people that came out with them. We were spit on. We had bottles thrown at us, rocks thrown at us, name called. To get to today or last year in 2017 and being told that we're no longer can be a part of it because we're Republican or conservative. And last year, they actually gave us a flat out no. This year, they strung us along for 3 months, and they're just refusing to answer our application. According to them, we don't even deserve an answer anymore. And it's a shame that after 48 short years, the LGBT community has gone from being the oppressed to now becoming the oppressors.
So you were involved with the Charlotte Gay Pride movement and stuff from day one. And these people know you, they know who you are and what kind of person you are. And they were cool with you up until 2016 when Donald Trump was elected president.
Oh, yeah. They've all, back then in 94 when I marched then, I was a liberal Democrat. Sorry to say, but I was. But I've been a Republican for many years now, and they all have known I was a Republican. This is all stemming from my support for Donald Trump. If they did have a problem with me being a Republican, they never said anything as far as like friend wise and stuff. It was just because it was Donald Trump as the reason everyone has an issue with it. But it's gotten with Charlotte Pride. There is no representation of the Republican Party whatsoever, from floats to booths to any interaction. They have some Pride parades around the country have given the log cabin Republicans a chance to have a float in there. But, as we all know, log cabin Republicans have basically are Democrat light, in my opinion. They're not known for coming to the defense of LGBT conservatives. They've sided more times with Democrats, the LGBT liberal community, than they have with LGBT conservatives. So, it's understandable how they would get afloat in certain cities' parades. But as far as here in Charlotte, Republicans, LGBT Republicans, or the GOP party have never had a presence in Pride ever.
And it's not that the Charlotte Pride board who makes these decisions, they don't want politics involved, because there are Democrats that get floats and get to march and they're represented. It's just the Republicans. That's correct.
Yeah, and last year they even made a statement to the press that they will deny on basis of political reasons because this is a non-political event. That was an actual statement made by Matt Comer and Charlotte Pride. But right after that, we see, and you're a witness to that, we saw Democrat city councils having a parade, having a float. We saw Mayor Lyles having a float. We saw Mecklenburg Democrat Party, Union Democrat Party, Cabarrus Democrat Party, various people, Democrats who are running for office out there marching. It was just limited to Democrats. There was no, the only political part that they didn't want a part of the parade are Republicans or conservatives.
Now, typically the Republican Party, I guess, hasn't been associated with being pro-LGBT. I think that Donald Trump has changed that. Certainly, he's not your typical Republican. And I think the Republicans in general have evolved over time, and people change their views and outlooks on things. So I guess it's understandable there isn't a huge Republican presence at these sort of events. But there were definitely, and I was there last year and I saw it was a lot of Democrat, politicians, candidates, the different, county parties and stuff. So it is interesting that they would deny you because they don't want it to be political, but they have all these Democrats who are there for political reasons. It's not like they were there for something else and they happen to be a candidate for office, or they happen to be the mayor or something. That's why they're there, is because they're running for office, or they're a city council member or the mayor or whatever it is. Last year, I know that was one of the first events that our two groups did together. I've run a group of Trump supporters in the Charlotte area since 2016. And once we heard about what happened to Brian, where the Deplorable Pride was turned down for the Pride Parade, our group got in touch, and that's how Brian and I connected. And it was one of our first events together, and I think we've certainly we've done a lot of events since then, and we've gotten better, I think, and more organized, and we kind of know how to do these things. It's a smoother operation now. Last year was a lot of fun to see the reactions from people, because it was just a kind of a ragtag group of, I think there was probably a dozen of us or so.
Yeah.
Mostly straight, which was the ironic part, that all these straight conservative Republicans came to support the LGBT conservatives and Trump supporters, and it was interesting to see how people reacted. There was a mix. There were people that were positive and thanked us for being there, or said that someone in their family would really love to see us, and they were so happy that we were out there being vocal and stuff.
Well, we saw a lot of people that said that they necessarily didn't agree with us politically, but they also did not agree with Charlotte Pride for denying our right to actually be there and exist.
Exactly.
So, I think we got a lot of people from that way. Like you said, you saw firsthand the actual hate among some of the people that were.
Well, that was the other end of the spectrum, was that we had the people that were, basically there were three categories of people there. The ones that just ignored us and didn't care. There were the ones that said, "Oh my God, my parents would love this. Let me get a picture of you guys. This is so cool." There were the people, of course, that gave thumbs up and stuff. But then there was the people who were very upset by our presence. And there was a couple of characters in particular. I know you know who I'm talking about. The one that came up with the "fuck Trump" shirt and was being really aggressive towards us and stuff. And
then the woman who told me to back up. And
oh my God,
she was thought she controlled the area and told me that I had that my free speech was not going to happen right there. And she quickly was pulled away by her friends, but she thought her strong arm tactic was going to bully us into going off and going away. She thought just being a strong arm bully that she could handle the situation that way, and she found out that my conviction was just a little bit stronger than what hers was, because she left. She went to the other side of the street. I didn't. And that's a fact.
It's interesting to see how people react. I think that a lot of people get emotional and they're not acting or reacting rationally or anything. It's just an emotional reaction. But it is interesting to see that reaction. I'll be especially curious to see this year people who saw us last year and what they have to say and how they react to us this time. Why don't we go over kind of what we're going to be doing, what the purpose of our protest at Gay Pride this year? Can you fill us in on the details?
Yeah. As far as this year, we're going to have our message a little bit more structured as far as like why we are there, because there was like 3 months going up into the protest that this was making news and everything. And there were still a lot of people that had no idea what we were out there. Some people thought we were out there as Republicans to disrupt Pride and everything. They had no idea that we were actually people who were gay and Republicans that were kicked out until we can't be a part of it. So this year it's going to be that message is going to be hammered in on to let the people know exactly what our purpose of being out there is. But as far as our game plan, on the 19th, we are going to meet at Ramir Bearden Park at 11 a.m. And from say 11 to 11:40, we're going to just be staging, speaking with the people that have come to support us, get our game plan together, and then we're going to walk from Ramir Bearden Park to Trade Street, and then we're going to make a right. We're going to walk 3 blocks to the square, and it's a pretty dramatic effect when we're coming in like that, because once you get close to the square, you start hearing the roar of 120,000 people. Because that's how I think last year they said the year's total last year was 150,000 people for the 2-day event.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's Charlotte's largest parade festival in our entire Charlotte's history. So that's a pretty big deal. But we're going to walk up there. We're going to have our American flags, Trump flags, rainbow flags. We're going to have our signs with our message it's basically our signs are going to be calling out the hypocrisy of the Charlotte Pride Board, because this is not necessarily the entire LGBT community that has this opinion. This is what 5 people sitting on a board has dictated who is allowed and who is not allowed into this parade. And we're also with our signs, we're going to be calling out the 2 major sponsors, Bank of America and Wells Fargo, because both of those companies in their personal or in their company guidelines, before they do business with any other business, they require that company have anti-LGBT things written into their business practices.
You mean like the anti-discrimination?
Yeah, Bank of America has that. They require that from any company that they actually do business with. Is that right? The city of Charlotte also has that policy that they will not do business with any company that does not have anti-LGBT things in their workplace. And both. You
don't mean anti-LGBT. You mean like anti-discriminatory.
Well, something that handles.
They're not anti-LGBT, in other words.
No.
Yeah. They want diversity.
Yeah,
they require.
You have to have some type of anti-LGBT thing in your thing to show that you're protecting your LGBT workers. And for Bank of America and Wells Fargo and the city of Charlotte, all having that practice, for them all 3 to be a part of an organization that openly discriminates against the LGBT community. That's why we're going to be going and calling them out for that as well, because Bank of America is the largest sponsor of this event. And for them to be the largest sponsor to an event that brings in 150,000 people, I'm estimating that there's several $100,000 that they're donating to this event. And for this to be, Bank of America is giving this, I'm hoping under the assumption that they are thinking that it's going for the entire gay community. And once they hear that it is not, that it's going to be used to be discriminated against certain people in the community, I'm hoping that they'll, if nothing else, they'll pull back their funding. You got to stop rewarding these organizations that openly accept practices like this. So we're going to give their sponsors the benefit of the doubt. And then, like I said, I can spend the next year going after the sponsors as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah. It is amazing that last year was the first time I'd ever been to a gay pride parade or anything. It was an experience. There's a lot of people. It's a big event. And I know that you've kind of watched as the Charlotte Pride movement has grown over the years. And to see it get to this point where now you're not able to be a part of it, officially, so to say, strictly because of your support for President Trump. Now, a lot of people, I imagine, if they're not, already on the Trump train, they're not Trump supporters, or, at least moderate and, sort of in the middle, they may not understand why you would support, or anyone in the LGBT community would support Donald Trump. But if you actually look into what he's done and things he's said, and over the years, and especially during the campaign, he's actually a pretty pro-LGBT guy, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the LGBT community in general has been programmed for decades and decades to be victims. And that is from the Democrat Party. I was a witness to that. I was a victim of that. I saw it firsthand how the Democrat Party comes into the LGBT bars in Charlotte. They would come in and every 2 years during election time, recruit voters. They would have voter sign up things inside the gay bars. And but you never saw that with the Republican Party. The Democrats would come in and they'd make us all believe we're victims. The Republicans are out to get us. And I bought into that for quite a few years. And finally I said, you know what? You're back after 2 years. You haven't delivered on one thing that you said you told me 2 years ago that you were going to do for me. And I woke up, and they have, like I said, in general, they've been programmed into believing that they have to be a victim. That's why they have no open mind when it comes to Donald Trump. For the first time, I believe, Republican or Democrat, we finally have a president that does not look at your class, your race, your sexual preference. He's making policies and trying to get an agenda passed that is going to benefit everyone equally, regardless of any of those categories. And for the LGBT community to sit back and want to claim they want to accept it. So equality. Well, equality means having to abide by the same laws and everything and guidelines as everyone else. Their big sticking point is that they want to say about Trump and the transgender ban. But, no other American going through something like that would be allowed to enter the military either. If we allowed the transgenders to do that, then we're giving that's the LGBT community getting special treatment over something that is not offered to every other American. You can't get in with diabetes. You can't be taking insulin and join the military. Taking hormones and sex reassignment surgery. I consider that to be far greater than diabetes. So they have to understand equality comes with following the same.
That's a perspective I think a lot of people overlook, is that they want equality, but equality means equality. It's a level playing field. You don't get special treatment. You don't get exceptions. And if you're going to be held to the same standards, that's equality. So that is interesting. And I know that's certainly one of their big sticking points. I know they always go after Mike Pence and Jeff Sessions. I had read the other day, Jeff Sessions is the first, I guess, I don't know if it was just Republican or the first Attorney General, period, to get involved and step in and prosecute an a transgender hate crime. I think it was in the state of Iowa.
Yeah. I think he was the first Attorney General to ever do that.
So for someone they scream and cry about being this, old school, gay basher or whatever, that's kind of a big step forward, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, it is, especially within the Republican Party. But as the gay community, like, and this all goes back down to victimhood. Um, if it doesn't have you can pass something and it cover all Americans, but if it doesn't specifically say gay, 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 gay on every single thing, the gay community takes that as not being included. They won't take that you're covered under the American part. We don't have to have this is a crime if you commit it against an American. This is also a crime if you commit it against an LGBT person. We don't have to be mentioned. We're covered under the American, very first American part. But that's the mindset of a lot of the liberal LGBT community, that if they're not specifically mentioned, there again goes to special rights. Then they take that as someone taking away their rights or something. As far as Mike Pence, I've done nothing but hear about for 2 years now that we're going to get rounded up. Let Trump get into office and Mike Pence is going to have us all rounded up and put on an island somewhere. Well, they haven't come because they're not going to come. That was, it's just a scare tactic. Half the people in the gay community are talking about the conversion therapy thing with Mike Pence. None of them know exactly what the hell it was. All they are doing there is repeating what they've heard on and ran with it, because I haven't met one gay person that even understood it. They just know, all they know is that he's going to try to turn us all straight and we're all going to be put on an island. But you can't get any of them to give you back anything from as to what they actually think his belief or whatever.
Well, just to clarify, because I think you're right, a lot of people don't really understand, when people make that accusation against Mike Pence, they don't really get, where it came from and what it actually was. I mean, you want to just quickly dive into it and give the basically it was to encourage practices that would reduce the chance of HIV or something. I'm not I haven't really studied it that much because I don't think it's relevant. I mean, we elected Donald Trump, first of all, not Mike Pence.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that he would try to. I mean, he's not going to try to turn gay people straight.
No, but the whole point was
something along those lines where it was just like the way it was worded. If you go back and read it, and we can post the actual notes along with this podcast, and people can read for themselves and understand a little bit better. But it's sad that people will just buy what they hear on the news and believe so passionately in it that they will try to shut someone else down, or in our case, even physically attack us for supporting Trump, because they're so terrified by something that's not even factual. It's fake news.
Well, I mean, a person has a right to their own personal opinion on the subject of LGBT people. I respect their right to have that opinion. It turns around when the problem is when they start enacting laws regarding that, and there's nothing that the LGBT community can cite that Mike Pence has done to take away any right of theirs. They're wanting is once again the gay community trying to control it all. They want to try to control Mike Pence's beliefs, and they can't. Just like they can't control mine.
I think actions speak louder than words, and if you look at all these characters that they try to vilify, there's nothing there as far as action. I mean,
it's like our president is trying to stop like ISIS. He's basically destroyed ISIS. ISIS, a group that will behead us for being gay, will throw us off a building for being gay. But yet Donald Trump doesn't get the credit. According to the logic of the LGBT community, they should be praising Donald Trump for saving them from being thrown off buildings and beheaded, because he single-handedly just increased the safety of the LGBT community.
Now, as we kind of wrap things up, there is I think it's the sort of the silent majority effect, kind of like during the Trump campaign, where there was a lot of people who you didn't really hear about them, but they were Trump supporters, and I think that people underestimated the number of people. I think that gay Republicans and gay Trump supporters is probably the same deal. There's a lot of them, because I know that the Deplorable Pride Facebook page is one of the largest gay conservative groups in the nation.
And we're like one of the fastest growing right now as far as the support wise. And I think that has contributed to we've got a loudmouth leader, me,
both in the White House and in Charlotte.
But you know, a lot of people that have their opinion of us one way or the other, they're not used to seeing an LGBT conservative person actually being this vocal anymore. People have taken, especially inside the gay community, they have they just say something and they run away. You know, they're not used to someone actually standing up. And I do believe that because of this, because when we were banned from Pride, we were the first, that was the first time in history that a gay group discriminated against another gay group over the political reasons like this. It's the first time it ever happened at a Pride. So we actually did make history from that. And they're not used to people fighting back. They're used to kicking people out to the side of the curb, and that's it. You run on and go somewhere else, but we don't have to deal with you. And that's the attitude that they've had for a long time. Now they're seeing people stand up for their rights and demanding that, for their right to exist. And that's not only showing it to them, but it's also catching on to other LGBT people that it's all right to stand up for your rights. And that's the reason we've grown. Like me personally, I'm not afraid to get out there. I will stand face to face with these people. Like I've always said, my rights were given to me by brave men and women, and it will take more than the LGBT community in Charlotte to take them away from me. So when my rights are, when they're trying to deny my rights, they're going to see me out there protesting that, and like I said, they'll see me next year. They'll see me this year, next year, and every year until our group is allowed to be in.
Now, how do people find Deplorable Pride? I know that Facebook is currently the most active and the largest, I guess, wing of our the Deplorable Pride group. But we are trying to switch away and try other social media sites like Gab and Weeby and stuff, or Weemy. But what's the best way for people who want to find out more to get involved and to stay in touch with you and what's going on with Deplorable Pride?
Actually, you can go to our website, deplorablepride.org, and you can sign up for our newsletter and keep up with our upcoming events, what we've got going on and everything. And if we're going to try to branch out outside of Charlotte and do some things within other parts of the state. So if anybody's in the North Carolina area, come sign up. Don't let the stigma that what some people have with this being an LGBT organization, because I would say roughly right now 70% of our followers are heterosexual. They just want, they just know what, they're coming to stand up for our First Amendment right. And people need to realize, regardless of whether you're gay, straight, whatever, if you condone the silencing of one person, you better be prepared to be right behind that person and give up your right to free speech, because if they've come from mine, they're coming for yours. And that's just how that works. History proves that correct. And this is no different. So just check us out on deplorablepride.org. And like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of events coming up till the election. We're going to do roadside rallies, and we're going to do town hall events. And we also have fun. We have MAGA cookouts and stuff to show our appreciation to our supporters. This happens. This gay pride protest is just this is our crowning jewel that we're fighting. This is the main reason why we're fighting out here. And so this is a little personal for us. So this is our big event that we'll hold every year. And but there's plenty of other events besides this one to get involved. Like I said, if you want to come and join us on Sunday, we'll be there at 11 a.m. at Rabir Bearden Park. Go to the square after we'll be at the square till about 2. After that, we're having a cookout at Independence Park for everyone who came. We have food, music, and games, and fellowship with other MAGA supporters.
That's awesome. Well, I think that for our first episode, this is a good start. We've got a lot more that we've got planned. So check back next week. We're going to be back on the air. And until then, this is Chris O'Shea with CarolinesForTrump.us. And
I'm Brian Talbot with DeplorablePride.org.
And we're signing off. Thank you for watching, and share
Free
with
the
friends if
weed.
you like it. Free the weed.
Free the weed.